everyone? This is Jason Merkel from Rise and Hobby, and we're out at the flying field today for a quick unboxing and assembly video of the new Habu SS 50mm EDF. This is the updated and upgraded version. Lots of cool features and things that we've changed on this particular version. Be sure to check out the other video. We'll link to it in the description and the first pinned comment below. But we're just going to walk through assembling it real quick because it's that easy to do. You could even do it at the field potentially. Buy it at the store, take it to the field, get it assembled. It's just a few screws, not a whole lot to the assembly process. You can see all the major parts come out already, pretty much ready to go. We got the wing, we got the fuselage, the horizontal tail, and the hardware. We get rid of this foam. And we are going to follow the manual. It's not a whole lot of steps. I also have a couple different transmitter options here and battery options. We'll talk a little bit about those, but be sure to check out our overview video where we go into a lot more detail about which transmitters work, which batteries work. The two that I'm going to show today are a DXS, because this is what comes with a lot of our trainer aircraft. And you can use this as the transmitter for this model if it's, say, your second airplane. So for example, our very popular and one of my all-time favorite trainer aircraft, the Hobby Zone Aero Scout, which comes with the DXS and the Ready to Fly Basic version. You typically use a 3-cell 2200 battery for that. You can use that same battery, the same transmitter, to fly this Habu as your second airplane. So that's a really, really nice touch. It allows people to move into EDF jets very easily because they don't have to buy all new radio and battery from the start. So we'll flip over to the first page of the manual here. Very first step, very, very simple. We're going to install the horizontal stabilizer. So what is nice about this model is our larger Habus, the vertical fin is a separate piece, but this one it's not. This is just molded into the fuselage, the vertical, and the rudder there. Oh, real quick note, just also covered in the overview videos, we made the rudder a little bit taller, so you got a little bit better rudder authority for knife edge in particular, which is a nice improvement between this and the original version. I'm going to get the screws out. Now, real quick note on the screws. There's basically two sizes of screws. You got two smaller ones and you got four larger ones. The two smaller ones are what you use to hold the tail on. We'll put those here first. Grab those. Very easy to install. Just using a pretty, typical Phillips screwdriver. Nothing too big, nothing too small. It's important that you don't over tighten those screws. You're going into plastic. You don't want to strip that out. You want to get it just snug. I also don't go too tight on one side to start. All right, now I've got that side pretty snug. This side I didn't quite go snug on, so I'm going to go back to it, snug it down. And there we go. That's it. We've got the horizontal tail installed now. The next step is to actually attach the clevises for the elevators. You can do it now, or you can wait until after you bind the airplane and then check the surfaces for level. I'm going to go ahead and connect them now. And it says to put them in the outermost holes. So I'll put those in the outer holes, and there's the little fuel tubing or rubber tubing keeper here that helps keep the clevis closed. After you snap it into place, you do want to slide that into place. In there. All right, slide that up in there. All right, so got that done. Now the other thing we need to do is attach the rudder clevis here. So we'll snap that into place. Also recommended the outer hole. If you want a little bit more control through, you can go to the inner hole, but I always recommend starting with what we have in the instruction manual. So in this case, it is the outer hole on both. Now, there is another step where you have to install the tail cone. I believe on the original version, the tail cone installed with some tape, but now it actually installs with some screws. Minor note on this is that we did actually have to add a little bit of weight into this to make it a little bit heavier, because now if you want to install a 4-cell battery, this version is both 3S and 4S compatible. The 4-cell battery, of course, weighs more, and it would end up being nose heavy without this extra weight in the tail. So I know a lot of guys say, oh, you shouldn't add weight whenever you can avoid it. In order to use 4S, you had to. If you were flying with 3S all the time, perhaps you could remove this, but we don't recommend it. We want you to have the option to be able to fly it on both 3S and 4S, so I would install it with the weight that's already there. And there's two little screws inside the package for the tail cone. All right, so we get those screws installed now. Really exciting to have this new version because I think it'll be better suited to a wider array of customers. So obviously you can still fly it on 3S. It doesn't have quite the same performance on 3S that the original version did, but it's still very, very good. And the reason for that is because we wanted it to also be 4S compatible as well. So we've got the tail installed, we've got the tail cone installed. Now we're going to move on to the wing installation. And what's nice about installing the wing is that we've got one of our handy hands-free connections. So both aileron servos are ran into a Y harness, and then that is popping out here in a single connector, which you don't have to worry about connecting. When you slide the wing onto the fuselage, you just want to make sure that that aligns properly. And then once you have the wing setting on there pretty nicely, make sure you don't have any gaps or any openings. Then you're ready to install your screws. And again, this is where you install the larger screws into the 4 slots in the wing. Oh, I take it back, it's actually 5. I missed that part. There's one right back here at the very trailing edge of the wing. I'm not gonna snug these up just yet. Again, I'm gonna get them almost tight, and then I'm gonna go back and tighten them all evenly so that way I don't end up with any strange twists or warps in the wing and the fuselage. Now, generally speaking, I would say most people aren't gonna take the wing off of this model. It's so small that most people are gonna be able to transport and store it all in one piece. So be sure to, consider that. That's always a benefit of a smaller model. You don't usually have to take the wing off, but that's a part of why we put the hands-free connection in there, is just in case you do wanna take the wing off. It's very easy to do and obviously very easy to install as well. All right, make sure I got all my screws nice and snug, check all the corners. Okay, now the wing is installed. It doesn't get much easier than that for wing installation. The next step is, if you want to install the landing gear, you do that. Now, of course, you can hand launch this and fly it without the landing gear. So hand launch, belly land on grass, that is an option. It's definitely faster. It definitely has better vertical performance without the landing gear installed. We talk about that in the overview and flight talk videos. But I would still say, if you've never flown this airplane before, I would recommend, if your plan is to hand launch it, to still install the landing gear for your first couple of flights so you can get a nice easy takeoff in, trim it out, land it before hand launching. When you're hand launching an airplane, it's not always easy for everyone to do, especially if the airplane isn't already trimmed. So I'm going to go ahead and take the extra step now and install the landing gear. And what's nice is we actually made the landing gear very easy to install or remove, so you could do that on the fly at the field. So the first step is the main gear. They pop into the wing mounts. So you see there's these slots here. There is a hole that you drop the end of the strut into, and then you slide it into those parts there, snaps into place. And of course, if you want to remove it, you just go the opposite direction. There it is, nice, snapped into place. And then on the nose gear, we did a very nice thing by adding a little thumb screw here. So it's easy to take off and install the landing gear without any tools or any significant fasteners. So I'm going to slide this in now. You want to make sure that you orient this with the spring towards the back. You don't want to put it this way. It will work that way, but it's intended to work this way. So I'm going to slide that into the slot. Once you get it into the slot, whoop, get that back in there. Set on the nose. Now, the arm you have to install on the push rod so you have nose gear steering. So I'm going to slide that into place now. And then pretty much center it. There are flat spots on that shaft for the nose strut. And then those will key into that arm. And once I've got that keyed in there, I'm going to get this thumb screw installed. There is a slot on the thumb screw, so you could use a screwdriver if you needed to, but you shouldn't need to. Just getting it finger snug should be plenty. All right, so that is it for the assembly. Now we're going to move into our options for binding to a transmitter. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bind it to my NX8 Plus here, which has been updated with the latest firmware. The nice thing about that is, another upgrade that we made on this model is it now has an AR631 Plus receiver with AS3X Plus and what we call a smart transmitter file, so an STF file. The benefit of that is when I bind this receiver to this transmitter, it will ask me, do you want to download all the settings for the transmitter from the receiver? Now, this isn't a very complex airplane. There aren't flaps, there aren't retracts, there aren't a whole lot of extra things on this one, but still it saves you some time and effort because you don't have to program your dual rates, your telemetry settings, your voice reports. All of that is going to be downloaded from the receiver into the transmitter. So I'll do that really quick to show you the process. It's very simple to do. First thing is I'm going to create a new model on my transmitter. So you don't want to start with an existing model because it will overwrite that. So I'm just going to do really quick. For those that don't know, you can hit these two buttons together, the X button and the back button, and you can scroll to add new model. I'm going to create it. Doesn't matter if you create an airplane, a helicopter. In the end, this receiver file is going to overload whatever transmitter model file we have loaded. All right, so now that I've done that, I've got a brand new acro model in this case. Now I'm going to install a battery. And then I'm going to bind the receiver to this transmitter. Now, ultimately, I'm going to show you, I'm going to end up binding it to the DXS in the end because that's what I'm going to fly it with. So I can show everybody that that transmitter works just fine for this particular model. But for now, we're going to show you how that smart transmitter model file works. So now I've got the battery plugged in and I need to reach down and there's the bind button on the receiver. I'm going to hold that down. So the receiver goes into bind mode. I see the orange light flashing, so I know it is. Now on the transmitter, I'm going to go to the bind option. It's bound, and then once it binds, it's going to auto-configure the telemetry, but then it's going to ask me, do I want to install the STF, the Smart Transmitter Model File? Okay, the receiver contains a preloaded Smart Model File. Do you want to load the file from the receiver? You have two choices. You can skip it and do your own setup. You can definitely do that following the manual, following your own standards, using your own template, or in this case, I am gonna go ahead and say load. It says this will overwrite all current model settings. Like we talked about before, no matter what model you have selected, it's going to erase all of that and put what's in this receiver onto this transmitter. So I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm. Then I just wait a few seconds and that's it. But again, the nice thing with the Smart Transmitter Model File is everything that's even the basic programming, my dual rates, my expo, the voice reports for the switch positions, all of that's already done for me. So you can see now it's bound. And when I move the switches, so aileron low rate, elevator low rate, rudder low rate. So all of that's already configured. Even throttle cut is already set for me. So you can see that's already set, which is a really nice touch. So it does save you some time and effort, even on a simple model like this, but it's really beneficial on more complex models that have flaps and retracts and different settings like that. It does save you a lot of time and effort there. Now, real quick note, the STF does not set up safe select for you. So right now the airplane just has AS3X. If you want safe select, you would have to go into your forward programming and turn that on. You'll have to pick a channel, pick a switch for that and assign it. And then you can have safe in one switch position, AS3X in the other. So you still have to choose to do that even if you load the STF. There's a lot of videos on that. And of course the instruction manual will walk you through that as well. But that is something that you will want to do if you want to have safe select enabled. So real quick though, I am going to now turn that off and I'm going to bind it to the DXS just to show you guys that it can be done. So I'm going to plug this back in, put that receiver into bind mode again. So now that the receiver is in bind mode, I'm going to bind it to the DXS by holding down the bind button and then turning it on. And I can see the light is flashing, so it's in bind mode. Oh, there it is. So we only got one set of waggles on all of the control surfaces, which means it does not have safe select right now enabled. So you can see I've got ailerons, I've got elevator, I got rudder, I even have throttle, and my throttle cut also works. But if I want to have safe select, I will now have to program that into the receiver. So with an NX8 Plus transmitter, you can do forward programming, so you don't have to do anything differently. With a receiver like this, with a DXS, I would have to bind it with safe select enabled. So you have a couple ways to do that. The instruction manual walks you through it. Depends on how you hold down the bind button, or you can use a bind plug, pull it out, that kind of thing. I won't go through all those details now. There's plenty of videos out there on that kind of thing. But again, ultimately you can see it binds no problem to the DXS. Ultimately, I'm gonna go ahead and set up safe select and it will be assigned to this 3-position switch here. So I've got safe, AS3X, AS3X, just like you normally would on a lot of models. But I just wanted you to see how simple it is to assemble the airplane, how easy it is, especially with a smart transmitter model file, to load that in for a transmitter like the NX8 Plus. And there you go. That's it. We are ready to fly. Be sure to check out the other videos. Thank you for watching.